We believe the opportunities remain. The baseload opportunities in the Philippines will remain. The demand will continue. No? In fact, other than managing to address the current concerns, what's keeping me awake is how to manage the rebound, right? To make sure that we are well positioned to capture the opportunities in the rebound once this pandemic is over.
And that's the question in everybody's head. How is the rebound going to be? Because in theory, if you're ready to latch on to the pace of that rebound, then you should be able to get where you wanted to at the same time. So for us, it's like, are we still going to be 9,000 at the end of the decade? Because at the point that this rebound happens, if you're ready and you move as fast as that rebound will allow you, you'll get to the same place by the end of the decade.
Welcome to COL Conversations. Joining me here today are Manny Rubio, President and CEO of AboitizPower. He has more than 20 years in the energy business, and he is the first non-Aboitiz CEO of AboitizPower. And also joining me are Liza Montelibano. She's the Senior Vice President and CFO of AboitizPower. She has also more than 20 years of experience in finance management and extensive experience in the FMCG industry. So just some fun facts about Manny and Liza before we start. Manny is an expert guitar player. He also sings, and he is an avid biker. And Liza is a black belter in karate, and she was even qualified to compete for the national team at one point. So good morning, Manny and Liza.
Good morning, April.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us today on the show. So let me start out by asking the most relevant question in our viewers' minds today. How are you doing in light of COVID-19? How is AboitizPower doing?
Well, the pandemic is something unprecedented. No one has a playbook on how to cope up with the pandemic at the start. No? So, short of saying, it has tested our resilience and resolve, no, as an organization. And the business environment remains to be challenging, no, and we continue to adapt to the evolving situation to keep our business operational and sustain our support for our stakeholders. And the new normal compelled us how to rethink the way we work. Now, although we have actually started a lot of the work protocols that we've been doing now before even the start of the pandemic, no? The work from home, we've started even a year ago, no? Available to all the team members. So, short of saying, we have the tools, we have the structure, we have the procedures to at least first manage the initial impact of the quarantine, no? Where we required people to work from home. But then, of course, moving forward, we have to think about simplifying the process, removing a lot of the complexities that were there, you know, when you are actually reporting to work, reporting physically in the offices. So that allowed, that made us rethink, retool and restructure, no? That affected certain positions in the organization. So we decided to actually remove some of the positions, no, not a lot, in fact, a very little portion of our workforce, no, to allow us to remain competitive and be sustainable, no, as we move forward to the post-pandemic economy. We have supported our affected team members well beyond what is actually required by law, and even continuously assisting them throughout this transition, even for some of them up to now. But the challenge remains, no, as we speak, but so is our hope, of course. No? Our strong AP culture keeps us connected, engaged, and motivated to continue advancing business and communities in the new normal and even to the next. Okay. Liza, anything to add?
Well, you know, I like most of organizations, you know, at the start of the ECQ, we were recalibrating our numbers almost weekly as we were trying to get a grasp of the implication of this pandemic. No, so we were doing it more often until a certain point that we felt we were looking at the right factors, we were looking at the right numbers, we were getting a better sense of how we think we will get impacted for this year and for the next few years to come. So at a certain point, you read up on any economist, and everyone will have their own view of what the shape of recovery will be. And as a group led by our banking and strategy team, we've also defined what we think the shape of recovery will be, and we are really gearing up our plans so that we know where we will position ourselves as the economy will recover eventually.
Yeah, so can I ask about, because as stock investors, one of the, I guess, evidence that you encountered some problems in the second quarter were the weak P&L numbers. So can you explain to us what happened in the first half? Why were profits down, etc.?
I'll answer that, and maybe Liza can add to that later. No? Well, obviously demand is down, right? We've seen the worst numbers, no, so far. The first 2 weeks of April, where demand showed to be around 30% below our 2019 numbers, right? And it hovered at that levels until the declaration of GCQ. But we're seeing a positively sloping curve, towards recovery. And in fact, before the declaration of the modified ECQ in Metro Manila, the second one, the demand was actually almost at the same level, if not at the same level as the July same period. The same period of 2019. And during the declaration of ECQ, okay, it's lagging a little bit, around 5 to 6%, but it's just there. So I think with that, we're hoping that hopefully without a worse second wave, this will track at this level. But then, of course, with the lower demand, EBITDA is down compared to last year. We're down by 15%. But Lisa will give you the details later on. There were a number of one-offs that were recognized also in 2019. The adjustments, the Graminicera adjustments, and of course the outages that we had in the first half of this year, and the continuous outage of our TSI Unit 2, the one in Davao, that plant went down in July, so that was not counted in the first half of 2019. So in 2020, as we have been providing information to the analysts, that was a prolonged outage that went online again in May, and we're confident that we've resolved the problem. So it's lower demand and the impact of COVID-19. Lisa, can you just give the figures, please?
So of our minus 15% versus last year, minus 7% of that is really because of lower demand due to COVID. And then minus 10% is due to the outages that we still had up to around May of this year. So the key one was TSI, because that was down already last year and late last year, and then we were finally up mid-May. But and then, however, during the first half, that was also partially offset by the fact that, as Manny mentioned, we already had TVI and TMO capacities online, which early last year were only up by the second quarter. But really now, as we speak, what we're up against for the second half of the year is really how demand will fare because of COVID. So as Manny mentioned right before this second MECQ, the demand was faring very close already to where it was versus 2019. So the question now is, how long will this MECQ be, and will we have repeats throughout the second semester?
So how is this MECQ affecting you? I mean, is it as bad as what you experienced in April this year, or not as bad?
No, not as bad. As I said, I think we've seen the worst that we've seen as far as demand is concerned was the first 2 weeks of April. Even given that April was summer, demand should be high. I think with MECQ, there are factories and manufacturing sites that remain open, although at a limited capacity. We're seeing that, comparing it with the GCQ data that we have, but the decline is not that significant. No? As I said, based on our tracking, GCQ versus MECQ is probably lagging by 5 to 6%, and at GCQ level, at GCQ period, the demand is at the same level as 2019 for the same period.
Okay. Is it fair to say that at this point the worst is over for AboitizPower?
As Lisa said, I think it really depends on how based on government resolutions as regards managing the pandemic. I think we have to take control of the situation. We're still seeing significantly high numbers as far as infection is concerned. We're also seeing high numbers of recovery, so that balances that out. So I think we all have to do our share. We call it WOW in AboitizPower. Wear your mask, observe social distancing, and wash your hands.
Okay, sa acronym.
For our employees to easily remember the protocol. WOW, right?
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, can you discuss more about your business continuity plans? Of course, looks like this COVID-19 pandemic is gonna be there for quite some time.
Okay, I'll talk about the operational business continuity plan, and I'll let Lisa discuss about what we've done as far as our digital initiatives on the support side is concerned. We have business continuity plans in place across all business units, but again, nothing prepares you for this, right? It may be there as a risk, but probably before the pandemic, not as high, right? So it doesn't have a playbook, right? I guess no one has, right? It's unprecedented. But what we have is that we have a very good safety culture in place in Aboitiz. We have behavioral safety being practiced all over our facilities. But the first thing we did is to secure the facilities that are operational. We're providing a vital service to the country, right? So we need to make sure that the delivery of power and the distribution of power, right, remains, right? Because it's needed in hospitals, government institutions. We have to be normal in an abnormal situation. So we implemented a 14-day rotation in our facilities. We have ships that are actually housed in all of our operating facilities, and then there will be a replacement batch of 3 ships again, that will replace those that will be coming off from that 14-day rotation. The 14 days, of course, is based on the quarantine period that was initially in the protocols set out by the DOH, and we're maintaining that. I think that is very effective. We've had positive cases in our distribution utilities, in the front lines, right? Reading the meters, servicing connecting meters, servicing our people in our customers in our franchise areas. But so far so good. We've had a good rate of recoveries as well. And then, of course, the offices work from home, for almost 100% of the employees. Before I give it to Lisa, one thing that we've also initiated early on in our facilities are our operational technologies digital initiative. We've put predictive analytics early on. We can monitor performance of our plants, especially the big baseload plants, right, off-site. We cannot for key personnel in the organization, they can log in. We can log into our laptops and observe how the plant's actually performing. Some have authority to actually operate from where they are. And that allowed us to really make sure that we maintain as normal as we can, no? The operations of those facilities. As far as our offices are concerned, Lisa, would you like to share that? Share what we're doing?
So the good thing is that even before the pandemic started, we were already paperless in a lot of ways. So one concern when it started for a lot of organizations was really procure to pay, how to go about accepting your invoices and processing and remitting payments, right? But for us, we already had a system where once the invoices were scanned in, the rest of the process for us is already paperless up to remittance of payment. So a lot of the teams could already do it remotely. For invoices that were received from different in different locations, you can take a picture and it's sent to a central capture system where all the teams then that need to work on it can access it already. So we had this already in place, and it really enabled us to work digitally throughout this whole work from home setup. So we, when I recall when GCQ started and we were asking ourselves how many people should go back to the office, and we said the people who should go back to the office are those who are not able to optimally do their work from home. And we thought about it because we did have a lot of tools already that existed. There wasn't actually a lot of people that we needed to go to the office to do transactions. So it's really proved that the investments that we've done previously really paid off.
Yeah, and that's when we realized that we are actually doing more with much less, and which compelled us to actually rethink, right, and restructure, and be able to prepare, moving forward, to be more resilient, to be more agile, because we can, as we have been proving so far.
Okay, so in light of that, do you still think there are opportunities for growth at this point? I mean, the pandemic
For
has
sure.
caused a lot of suffering for a lot of businesses.
Yeah, for sure, April. That's one thing that we are really looking forward to. Before the pandemic, we focused on 4 key operational areas, 4 key challenges. First, of course, is the team member safety, which I already talked about. Making sure that our team members remain safe as much as they can with our protocols, putting protocols in place to ensure their safety. Continuous work operations, which I also talked about. And related to your question, continue the project execution. We have, as you well know, we're in the final stages of delivering to the grid GN Power Dingginin, 2 by 668 megawatts in Bataan, supercritical coal generation. We expect the plant to be synchronized to the grid early to mid-November. We suffered setbacks, of course, in our commissioning because of the ability to bring in the technical advisors for commissioning from the OEMs and the EPC, from the providers of the plants. But most of them are actually now at the site, of course, observing the national and the local government protocols of quarantine. Imagine people coming from the US, coming from China, or even in Europe, when they get to Manila, because it's in Davao. We had some cases where they have to be quarantined in Manila. When they get to Davao, another 14 days of quarantine to comply with the Davao ordinance. So those are the things that we have to comply with, and to adapt to. So that basically that 1,300 or beyond 1,300, we expect to be synchronized, both units by around May. One in November, expected COD probably around January or February, and then the other one in May. So that's a significant addition to the grid, and probably the last major one for a while. Okay. And then of course the Naga plant, the diesel units that we bought from Pisang. It now has a provisional approval to operate, no? And probably by now we have been given approval. I'm not updated yet, to be a WESA member to start offering it to the grid. And we continue to invest in land for our renewable energy, land in Nueva Ecija, land in Tarlac. We continue to apply for land conversion, right? We're doing we have also a number of service areas in the north, no, in Pangasinan, for solar facilities, and that continues. The development of those projects continue. And then recently we signed a contract to provide ancillary services to NGCP through our barges in Navotas that was contracted by Meralco to provide energy, and now really contracted for what it is really supposed to be providing: ancillary services to the core center, to the demand core, which is Metro Manila, through NGCP with a 3-year contract. As far as growth is concerned, April, we are looking forward to RPS and strict implementation of RPS by DOE. Because of the weaker demand, we believe that the demand for new capacity for renewable to comply with RPS probably would have shifted a year or two. Before, we were expecting the capacities, new capacities for renewable energy to be needed for compliance to RPS around 2023. Now it's probably late 2024, 2025.
Mm-hmm. So in the past, you had mentioned that you have plans to grow the capacity from 4,000 megawatts to 9,000 megawatts by 2029. Are you on track to meet this, or is the goal still the same?
Yeah. Well, we have, I think, as we have disclosed as well, no, we have not proceeded with a project in Vietnam that we were counting on at the onset, no. Well, I think really for good reasons. There's a lot of uncertainties. Today, there's still a lot of uncertainties. I think we made the right decision on that one. But we believe the opportunities remain. The baseload opportunities in the Philippines will remain. The demand will continue. No? In fact, other than managing to address the current concerns, what's keeping me awake is how to manage the rebound, right? To make sure that we are well positioned to capture the opportunities in the rebound once this pandemic is over. You know, maybe 2022 or even late 2021, and we can be optimistic. You know? And because I think for me that feels much better as a mindset. So yes, I think we're still there's still opportunities to be at that level. But we continue to revisit that. As Liza said, we are reviewing our forecast on a weekly basis, no, given the situation.
Mm-hmm. What about funding? Is that
I
an
just
issue?
want to add it.
Okay.
Lisa, go.
And then I'll go straight to funding. It is that, it's interesting what Manny is saying, because that's the question in everybody's head. How is the rebound going to be? Because in theory, if you're ready to latch on to the pace of that rebound, then you should be able to get where you wanted to at the same time. So for us, it's like, are we still going to be 9,000 at the end of the decade? Because at the point that this rebound happens, if you're ready and you move as fast as that rebound will allow you, you'll get to the same place by the end of the decade. So it really depends on what kind of rebound happens to the economy. But I guess what we're preparing for is to make sure that we are ready to catch on that wave, so to speak, when that rebound happens. Will it allow us to get to 9,000? Yeah, and we're well positioned. Okay. In terms of the funding, well, as you can see, there has been a slew of fundraising that's happened. There's access to really very affordable debt in the market. Well, right before all of these started, we finished the last tranche of our shelf. In fact, I think we were the second in quarantine who did it. It was kind of amazing to have how we ended up doing the whole thing in quarantine. And there's opportunity. Everyone is raising funds, no? So at this point, actually, it is a good time to do it.
Yeah. What about timing of maturities? Is it an issue for you, or is it well spaced out?
It is well spaced out, at least for those that well, the big maturities that we're anticipating are coming in about 2 or so years. And what we're saying, right, that a lot of, if you look at a lot of the shape of recovery projections, because everyone is projecting, I know like Russia is saying that there's a vaccine already, right? But on average, normally vaccines would normally take 2 to 3 years. So let's say a large part of the globe would have access to the vaccine. So by then, you're starting to see a rebound. A lot of our maturities are actually happening by then. So, we're projecting that it should be something that we can manage.
Okay, that's good news. What about cash dividends? I guess that's one of the main concerns of our clients. If they buy AP stocks, can they count on your cash dividends?
Well, our current policy is to pay 50% of previous year's net income. No, however, of course, this is subject to an annual review and declaration by the board. No, and may change. But today, this policy still stands until it is reviewed.
I guess in closing, like, what are the lessons that you have learned from the pandemic, and that you will continue to adopt?
Okay, I'll start. No, I think it made me realize that we have a very resilient workforce. No, our resources, that I've always said that our number one resource are our people, and our people really delivered. To me, they are our heroes. No, we're frontliners. We are there from day one. No? The ones distributing the power in Davao, in Cebu, in Cotabato, in the inner zone, in the inner zones and export processing zones where we operate the distribution utilities. No? They're out there, okay? And then our facilities where we required our people to work on a 14-day rotation, not seeing their families, being away from their families. No, up to now from May 14. No. That's a lot to ask, no? And yet people are actually giving and contributing, and I believe enjoying, no, with all of the engagement programs that we have. We have acoustic nights, we have inumans, right? And we have a weekly town hall in AP, no, kamustahan, no, where the management committee actually shares information about the company, the financial performance, issues, no? Updates on the pandemic. These are all the items that keep our employees engaged. No? But one thing that we are really looking forward to is a change in mindset on the new normal, right? How can we actually sustain work from home? No? How can we address the issues that our mother employees, no, are having, no, being mothers, employees, teachers, daycare center attendants, all at the same time. No? How about work-life blur, right? How do we manage that now? Because you're working from home, people are assuming that you're available for meetings. They're trying to, but one thing that has really happened, no, is that we now have put discipline into our meetings. We keep it really to the timetable, 1 hour, right? And everyone comes prepared so that everyone's not wasting anyone's time, right? We start on the dot, by the hour, at the hour, right? But then given that, they block your hourly schedules from 8 in the morning to probably even up to 7 in the evening. You know? So that's something that that we need to address. I think we can do that better, you know. And I think that's an issue with the rest. But as far as the business is concerned, we are closely monitoring the situation as always. We're monitoring demand. We're keeping our plants running. We're keeping all our distribution lines operational, no? Reading the meters. and making sure our customers are actually informed, no? Both in the generation and distribution, and our employees engaged. Lisa, anything to add?
Well, I guess as we said earlier, the key really is we kind of really got the appreciation how the digital initiatives are paying off, and we said that we need to continue to work on this trajectory of digitalization, no? And how it ends up enabling us to do our work better, more efficient, paperless. And as Manny said, it's amazing how you see the teams have adapted very fast to this new situation. And you're seeing also how everybody is adapting to their own situations at home to kind of merge with this new work setup, right? For me personally, because my kids have started their online school already, and I look at it and I'm like, wow, the schools have managed to come up with these tools it's how different sets of tools that's enabling the kids. And I look at my kids, and what my youngest son said, mommy, I'm working like you, because on his computer he already has a lot of screens open for his different subjects, which when we were in school we wouldn't have to do. You just do one subject at that. So you look at them, the kids are adapting very fast. And and we look at our teams, and I'm wondering, how else can we continue to help our teams to continue to adapt? The kids are faster on this; they're like digital natives. But I guess this quest to continue to make sure that everyone is adapting and learning to this situation is really going to be key.
Yeah, in connection with that, Lisa mentioned about preparation. That was the cliche before. Preparation is key, no? But I guess no one can really prepare you for this pandemic. So adaptation is key. Now that that you've adopted, I think reinvention is the next key, right? So and that's what we're trying to make sure that we're prepared for the next normal.
Yeah, that's very encouraging, actually. Okay, so that ends our episode of COL Conversations. Thank you, Manny and Liza, for sharing updates on AboitizPower.
Okay, thank you, April. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. Really appreciate it. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, April. It was fun talking to you today.
Yeah, thank you to all our attendees, and stay safe, everyone.